well
I have a
has to
question
go
for
to.
you.
Yeah.
Are you one of those people that had a hard time with casual conversation?
No.
Okay. I want to have a conversation that is appealing to the new me, not the me that used to see problems everywhere.
Casts and entertainers and
Yeah.
personalities online. The big crime is not that they do something negative or dark. It's that they do something which appears like something but really is nothing. So,
Do you think that life is just about pursuing meaning?
yeah.
I've done the meaning thing as well, like to the point where I was like suffering a lot. Being active is important to being a man. Being active is important to being a Christian, actually. I think Peterson did a great job of laying that out. With
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, what's up?
Not much.
I was wondering how to set this up because I've never done anything like this, but I think I figured it out.
Yeah, it's good. You
Yeah,
got a dog. That's cool.
yeah, he'll be in it now, I'm sure.
Good.
Yeah, his name's Loki, Red Heeler, German Shepherd mix. Um, I adopted him when I had my family. So I got to keep him.
Cool.
So yeah, it's good to see you. It's been a while.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um, what? Yeah, what subjects on Peterson Academy do you find the most interesting?
I would definitely say so. I don't have a science brain, so anything like that, like Brett Weinstein stuff, I can't even I can't even imagine how he like thinks really. Especially because he like uh they're both the Weinstein brothers are like political as well. At times. Uh and or at least they have podcasts that are anti-establishment, I guess. I guess you can say that. That's more accurate. Um but I would say my biggest interest on PA is definitely the self-development stuff. I'm kind of like a or the I'm kind of like a self-help junkie in that sense, where I'm trying to improve my life and have been doing that for a while. And I think that the tools that I have at my disposal, I don't really know what to do with. It's like having like lightning in your hand at times. You know what I mean? Like there's so many different people saying all these different ways to live and what works and what doesn't work, and people are looking for hacks, and I've been in that crowd before, as far as like not shortcuts is what not really what I'm looking for, but like productivity. There's like a productivity culture, I think online, and so um, you know, I really feel like the educational opportunities on PA are way more what I want to do with my long-term future than what's around my area. Um,
Now, when you say that you're like not interested in certain scientific things, my like one thing I wonder about that is that maybe just because you don't see any actual use for it because like you see an immediate use for like the self-help stuff that kind of gives you guidance about like what you should do in your life, but like when it comes to evolutionary biology, I could see that it's kind of like, well, what am I going to do with that information? And then that's where, because this is what Jordan Peterson talks about, is that like you pay attention to that which is sort of salient or like means something to you. You can't just like arbitrarily absorb sets of information. Um,
well, that and it's so technical. I mean, these guys that with these podcasts, they have such a technical like they're trained. They've been training for years, and yeah, I get to be a fly on the wall, but it doesn't help when you're a fly on the wall, but you don't understand the language that they're using or the references, or you don't know whether or not they're a charlatan. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of people in the podcast space that I probably wouldn't want if I got to know them. I probably wouldn't want them in my house. Like, you know what I mean? Like they have like I think there's like a massive in the culture war space of especially there's like some people that are more obsessed with their messaging online than they are and with like being a man of integrity or you know like and it speaks like they're like speaking particularly of like Rollo Tomassi or something like that, where he has this massive mission he's been on for years, but this type of stuff that he posts, and he's like on the cutting edge or whatever, the manosphere or whatever. At least he used to be. I don't know what he's doing now because he's kind of an asshole. Uh, I feel like he's one of those guys who don't really think I'd want him in my house. But yeah, I'll listen to him on my phone, you know, like I have before, but I don't really think he's a good person.
Doesn't that do that changes something massively though? Like if you don't think somebody's a good person, I don't know who this is, they give like advice because I feel like the moment I have a perception of somebody where I'm like, this person is not a good person, then suddenly to some deep level, I will take something they say because it immediately is true. But if it's just based off their word, then like I won't take it at all generally.
Or people are sly and they have their ways of using language that is manipulative, or it's more of a sales pitch than it is useful for your long-term vision. Like there's lots of ways to live short term, but a lot of people who interact with the culture war space and the podcast space, they don't think long term. They don't have a long term vision. They're not living that way, and they damn sure aren't their audience. They're not, like let's say communicating because it's not practical. They're not communicating with their audience about their long term goals. They're just at war. It's a culture war podcast space. Like they're living in that mentality, like the Andrew Tates and stuff like that. Those guys are dangerous as hell, and to be regarded with contempt by men that actually, I think, out loud even, uh, to be regarded, especially because there's so many young guys that they're interested in the adrenalizing aspect of what they're saying. They're not interested in like the what it costs to what they're saying. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not really a fan of the Andrew Tates at all, or anybody that wants to be like them.
Yeah, when it comes to people like that, where it's like they're meant to be sort of figures that provide information and advice to people, my I just look at it like, well, what information is actually new to them? Like, Jordan Peterson actually has new information. He's actually developed ideas that are brand new. It's not just sort of a,
Hmm.
you
Yeah,
know, a compilation of.
he's having many times. There's been many times with him where you could have seen the real character, his real character, and his. I mean, I think he's operated from a place of integrity and a place of real virtue, not just talking about virtue. You know what I mean? Like there's guys that do that too, where they talk about living with a positive character traits, but if you were to, if they get into a scandal or a news hit piece, whatever, you can see how they operate during those stressful times. And it takes a real practitioner and a real somebody who's not just reading philosophy, but actually integrating philosophy or integrating these positive ways of being that are time tested and battle tested. Um, so yeah, I've struggled with finding role models, let's say.
Now, like the finding role models thing is interesting because I feel like on some level, m maybe it can be graduated, but maybe it can't be because like when you look at people and their lives, that tells you immediately kind of how effective their information is to some degree and sort of being able to have more access to that tells you more stuff. But I've also experienced something where it's like I was in that stage of entirely sort of basing information off the person. I would like study people really, really carefully, like to see like what kind of integrity they have. Um, but then, but then now I feel like I more have models that I don't that aren't dependent on other people, where I sort of just have like perspectives that are independent. Um, which is where like I wonder
So
if
I have a
that's
thing to ask you, I guess, then, because I mean, Peterson's clear about people being cultural creatures, and that requires other people, and we're social animals as well. He talks about that. So like, there's a part of me. Is that are you talking about like the lone wolf type of mentality? Because I don't know for sure how you have like your own independent ideas, but yet you remain plugged in to a community. Because I think that with Peterson when he talks about the cultural aspect of being a studious person or somebody that values how people act, um, I think he's onto something in that you definitely it's biblical not that you cannot do life alone. You have to be in a church or church is not digital, for example. Um,
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. When you said lone wolf, I saw your dog like perked up. I wonder if he like was thinking about his days back, his ancestors
I don't know.
out in
He's
the
a wild.
wild.
He can be pretty wild sometimes.
Um, well, this is, yeah, I mean, this is my understanding is is that there are certain things you can learn that are true and like so the having culture and people to guide you is absolutely indispensable. You literally cannot develop without that. But I feel like once you've gotten to a certain point of um understanding, you can know certain things where you can rely on the thing itself. So like there's this idea of like Jordan Peterson talks about the logos. There's like there's a logic to reality. So one of these things, for example, would be like archetypes of the hero myth, sort of facing your fears. That's like something where I know that's true now, independent of anybody. Even though I first heard it from Jordan Peterson, I know that's like a truth beyond other things. And then there's other, I've like sort of built up from that logical premises, logical ideas of things that are really true. And the other thing is that there's a lot of stuff that seems to be kind of extra that you don't really need, like sort of like lots of like there's lots of gurus out there who tell you like how you need to do things and all this stuff. My understanding of that really is that that's actually kind of extra on top of the issue. Like really understanding like the thing you need to do only is just integrate your shadow, like just come
You think
into.
you think Jungian psychology is for everybody? I don't.
What do you think?
I don't think it's for everybody at all. I think it's for. I mean, I've kind of used it to. So let's say. How let's see. How I would actually think about it. I use him a lot of reasons because I'm just a curious person, and because he had such an interesting contribution, and such a. I mean, it's a what is it, like 27 volumes, or I mean, it's like a lot of big. There's a lot of stuff that he published, and I it's not something that I want to study my whole life. I don't even think that I'm capable of integrating or let's say uh utilizing a lot of his work. However, it is something that I've read before. I wouldn't say I have a solid understanding of the collect archetypes of the collective unconscious. I used to try, but I tried really hard and I don't think I succeeded. Like, I mean, I tried really hard. He was one of the main people. I mean, part of the ways you can try to understand Peterson is through starting with Jung. Uh, and so I didn't feel like I got anywhere with it. I want to do more in the future, but right now I'm more focused on John MacArthur, and uh, I don't think if I were to think like biblically, whereas Jung, like I've never really found anyone, even online, like who is someone that studies the Bible and studies Jung at the same time. Like I feel like you're either one or the other. And most
Hmm.
Christians would be terrified of Jung, I think.
Okay, well, so that is interesting because suddenly I see exactly why I have this feeling of like not needing anybody to rely on because there's just this one idea in Jung, which is not too deep, which is this is just the one idea. The one idea is that all of the psychological phenomena that you would describe as like negative that arises, all of the Paul in the gospel talks about I want to do something, I don't do it. All of the stuff that arises that's like that, uh, from Jungian psychology is seen as there's something in that. So there's this deep trust in your own psychology and your own physiology that like
Is that like summarized? Is that like in filth it will be found? Something like that? Is that something he said before? It's like
in wait,
in filth it will be found. It's like something I've heard Peterson talk about a long time ago,
I'm not sure what
where
that word is you're saying there. That in what it will
uh
be found?
filth, F I L
Oh,
T H,
okay, 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 yeah.
like where there's always a given, let's say if you have a given problem, if you confront it or you like head towards it instead of avoiding it, there's more consequences to avoiding it than actually going towards it. It's like the solutions to be found in the muck, basically. It's something
Yeah,
like
I mean
that.
that's like an archetype. This idea is more like this. It's more like and I'm not sure how explicit this is in Jung, but it's I think true and I think it might be explicit in Jung, but it's more like your own psychology. You're not at war with your own psychology. Your own psychology is working with you. You just need to like listen to it, pay attention to it. So like an example would be you want to work, you want to build something, and then you feel like lazy. So what people who are in this sort of self-help industry are like always talking about is like, well, how do you get motivation, like patterns building, like atomic habit, like this kind of thing.
Mhm.
Versus Young is like, pay attention to yourself, like just don't try to force yourself to do something. Listen to yourself, have a conversation with your unconscious. Be
I think that's too complicated.
It's too complicated, but the
Yeah, I
idea
think
isn't
I
the
hear
idea
it.
simple.
I hear it, but no, not really. I think the what some of the motivational people, you're right. They are obsessed with productivity, like we talked about earlier. But there's also a segment of people that need things simply, and the best way to say to achieve something difficult and also is with simple tactics. And the biggest, most simple tactic is, hey, there's work to do. Go like don't worry about motivation. Don't worry about you know listening to the part of you that wants to avoid exertion or whatever. I think the biggest thing that's helped me as far as that goes, like work ethic wise, is you first of all, you do something hard that you're proud of in your past, so you can look back on it and be like, you know, I remember that where I did that project and it didn't really go as planned, but we eventually pulled it off and I was proud of it. Well, now there's an opportunity in front of me now that I could go do, and if I don't do it, then I have like, people talk about shame being a bad thing. I don't think shame is a bad thing all the time. I'd be ashamed of myself or ashamed of the type of, especially if you're a man that talks about uh, I mean, being active is important to being a man. Being active is important to being a Christian, actually. I think Peterson did a great job of laying that out with the Abrahamic interpretations that he had with the Genesis series about faith being action oriented. And I think part of I'm currently reading a book by Tim Keller about work being I barely started it, so I can't really explain, but I bought it because I think there's like a with Christians and work, there's like an assumption that all work is good work, and I don't necessarily buy that. Some of it is like Joe Rogan talks about BS jobs. Some of that is like you're better off trying something new than going and working for that company. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, and there's the Christian interpretation that, well, hey. You're bagging groceries. That's a good job, and I'm not bagging on people that do that. In fact, there's many times where those people are better than me because I've struggled with work. I've struggled with identity and all that kind of thing. And I see there are people in my town that I go to the grocery store, and I'm like impressed they've been there so long, first of all, and I'm impressed like they're capable of that. I'm not, and so what I'm talking about with Christian work is like I don't want to intellectualize my problems anymore. And with my what I was doing with Jordan's work, which was probably twisting it because I don't have a problem with him like my friends do. Uh, I because I do think his message has been very overwhelmingly positive. Uh, and the Christian work aspect is really difficult for me to answer. I mean, it's one of those things like Christian compassion. I struggle with that I mean, my whole life with belief in the Bible and all that kind of thing. Like, I don't know. I'd have to have somebody talk to me about it and ask me questions about it because I don't really, those Christian compassion and Christian work are probably the two most complicated things for me.
What do you think Jesus would have said about work?
Well, I think he demonstrated with being a carpenter that you don't have to be, to contribute. You can contribute, uh, in ways that are profound just with your uh like he didn't come as a king and just start operating that way. Like he came in a manger and he came in lowly means. He came as a somebody from Nazareth, which was a place that people regarded as uh not worth much. Like he so I do feel like I don't know how Jesus would talk about jobs that are um like I don't think Jesus would sell alcohol. That's a job. You know what I mean? Like I think he would be someone that would actively rebuke culture. So
Um, my feeling is like he would not um say like this description of like when people came to Jesus and had problems, he was just like be healed, right?
what does that mean?
Like he just sort of somebody came and said they had an issue, they had a health issue, and he just sort of said you're healed. And
Oh
somebody
yeah.
came and said they had an issue, maybe a psychological issue, they were possessed, and you just like be healed. So this seems to be in line with what I'm saying though about like Jungian psychology, where it's like mm, it seems like all the problems that arise, sort of like people at war with themselves, kind of always like struggling, like oh, like having to do things to make themselves work. Like according to Jesus, it seems like Jesus would just say, "You're perfect. You can just do it." There doesn't have to be like a
Well,
process.
first of all, I think it's very, very hard and very, very impossible probably to rationalize a miracle. And he's a miracle maker. So when he was healing people, he was healing people with the divine. So it's impossible for me to look at that and be like, how do I rationalize what he's doing there? I don't know. And so I do feel like he operated with by example, and his entire life is that way. Um, and I don't think it's just an archetype. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But now, didn't what's your denomination? Because wasn't it that they were in a room and then the Holy Spirit came and then it was the Holy Spirit was going to be with them and then like the apostles went out and did the same things Jesus did? Like, wasn't what Jesus did supposed to be every Christian's lifestyle? Or are you
You mean
from
like carry your cross, like
not carry your
uh,
cross, do healing and stuff?
hmm.
Or is it a different denomination? Because I know there's some
I don't really
denominations where it's
know. I
like,
don't really know for sure. I know that I'm John MacArthur, the one that listen to the most is Reformed. I don't think the church that I go to has a denomination. I think they're non-denominational. Um, so uh, I don't know. And another thing, like I feel like, especially because it's being recorded and eventually posted, I'm assuming, we should probably, make known that we're not like I'm not an expert Christian. I'm not a perfect Christian. I don't claim to be any of that. We're just having a conversation about really, really important and maybe relevant things, and it's important for people to like like understand where we can make mistakes too, as far as like what we're talking about, because this stuff is really, really complicated. Uh, as far as like biblical, what's relevant to the Christian walk and what's worldly. I don't know for sure how to see um, the question that you asked. Ask it again. Let me try to
Okay, okay.
see.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I think it's an interesting conversation because we're kind of on the edges of our limitations. But the question is this: it's like, um, it's a statement and a question. So the statement is that it seems like all the routines and like patterns and behaviors and like ways people come about doing things to address the issue of maybe finding it difficult to work. It doesn't seem like that's something that Jesus would advocate for. Jesus would advocate for just like
Oh, so this
healing,
is
like
okay,
just
okay, okay.
solving it.
So one of the things that I remember that I learned from the inner city church that I went to is that if you're having an issue as far as like your day-to-day routines, your day-to-day not you're not succeeding, you're falling into negative emotion and temptation and stuff like that, one of the best things you can do is just start serving the church. Like I mean
Right.
volunteer, I mean be available um uh and acts of service, even if you're in a situation, where you need help. In fact, people that I ran into, if they saw by your actions that you're a genuine Christian, and not just using it at the time, because people I've been in jail with have done that, and I've probably done that as well, given that it took me so long uh, to start actually reading the Bible when I was stressed. Um, so these people would offer you uh, things and offer you service if you like were available and you were actively serving the church. Like just because uh, church is not something where you just attend and walk out the door on Sundays. I'm glad there are programs now that are helping people, the ones that I saw uh, that need it, and I'm glad it's like a refuge. You know what I mean? Like our church would talk about being a lighthouse for the city, and they're serious, very serious about it.
Well, that's a really good point. I think you bring up about like if you're having those issues, well, you can just go spend time at the church because, if I look at Jesus's model, it's something like this. It's like, okay, at the base level, Jesus said, you don't worry about food or clothes because do the birds worry about food and clothes? It's like this idea of like, what the base, you don't really need anything. And Jesus also fasted for 40 days. So like also food, like that's where those understandings kind of disappear. And so if people are like struggling to have motivation to do things like and then they're like creating all this structure to do stuff, it seems like that's not what Jesus would do. It seems like what Jesus would do is he would not feel a requirement to get money and like do all this stuff that he would
Another
like
thing is he would ask the Father for guidance, and that's one of the first things he would do. I think. I mean, that's the first thing. Like, you can't be a Christian and not pray. That's just it's impossible to be a Christian and not pray. But there's a lot of people that struggle with rationalizing prayer because they're asking for things they're not receiving. It's like, according to MacArthur's ministry, from my understanding, the um, gty.org, according to them, you're not. asking for things from the Father, you're responding to grace. That's a whole different interpretation of prayer. Uh, you're actually like like you've been given grace, which is a free gift to those that accept it. And I mean that alone is enough to bring you to your knees every night. Especially if you're honest with yourself about what your sin nature and what you've done over the course of your life. As far as you know, abusing yourself or not living up to the spirit that you've been given or that you acknowledge. If you acknowledge the Father, it's not a works based. It's not. That's not a works based interpretation. I think your character should be altered by the understanding of grace. Um, and
Now I wonder though, because I feel like that there's also a possible trap in that where people will end up anytime a problem arises, they pray about it and like on to one extent it's good because they're doing something very spiritually deep, but on the other hand, they're also manifesting the problem by continually identifying it. So like an example of this would be somebody maybe doesn't have enough food. And so every time they run out of food, they're constantly praying that they need more food. And if they were to trust God and just sort of allow him to do things as opposed to like asking him for things, it seems like then they would maybe understand like, oh, actually I'm fine, kind of like I can go without food. People can go a long time without food and it's not even uncomfortable. It's actually healthy. And so like
yeah,
that's
fasting's a good
right.
thing.
Exactly. So like the person in this case would be generating a problem by continuously asking about it versus just listening or trusting.
Mm. I mean, the whole word manifestation gives me a. I don't really know much about that. I've seen people reference it before. I wouldn't say I understand it at all. Uh, I know there's a lot of like pagans or something that like people that are polytheistic that believe in manifestation. Um, I think that's the context you're talking about, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
uh, and so I mean, part of it is like it's very easy with prayer is it's very easy for human beings to rely on every thought they have, right? And like that to respond to every thought they have. And what the Lord has said, the Lord does is it says, "Come to me," actually. Uh, and so you're acknowledging first of all that you need help, uh, and you're not always right, and you're actually a receptacle for the spirits of this world.
Hmm.
And so it's like an alignment thing. Um, you're aligning yourself with what you really believe when you just fall on your face or fall on your knees or stop and pause. Because I mean, even like Ian McGilchrist's work, right? Who he talks about he I don't know a lot about his work other than his he seems to be making like a neurological case for the existence of like the creative stories being relevant to science. And so I mean, I think he's like a philosopher and a neuroscientist at the same time. Like that dude is very interesting. And I feel like he I've read some things on his work and it seems like he's made a case that you initiate, I think it's the right brain when you pray. I think it's something like that. Like it's like there's like uh, a whole like activation things happen neurologically when you just stop and I mean consider the divine instead of what the divine how the divine outlines existence and outlines
Hmm.
the what the world is. Whereas science, like Peterson talks about, science talks about how what the world should be or something like that. No, wait, how does he say it? It's like science is what is, and then the religious stories, the creation stories are what should be, or it's something like that, if I remember correctly.
Now, like I'm thinking about maybe a relationship between a and I'm like this is I'm being like I'm finding the area where we have disagreement because I think it's interesting because and also because I feel like there is sort of a lot here that can it seems like be very beneficial. So like um you have a parent, they have a child. The child maybe comes to them, has a problem. They're like, this. Now, the child may come and have like all these problems and sort of have a relationship and discuss things. But if you had a perfect parent, um, I guess you'd want that you'd want to talk with them so that they would understand you, but also I feel like you wouldn't bring up issues to them, if that makes sense. Like you would talk to them about getting deeper understanding, but you wouldn't like if there's a problem bring it up because my feeling is that a mature like the like if you're like a more correct way of being because there's like it's like a development thing there's like different ways to do it but it seems like kind of bringing up problems to God is like never really the best. Now I know like Jesus did this kind of, but he was kind of like asking God like why did you can you like take this thing away from me and then God said no and he was like okay, but like that, he didn't do that much. That was in the garden just before he was crucified. He was like can you take this burden from me? But it just seems like so when I said manifest, yeah, I am invoking like a new maybe new age like spiritual understanding of it, but it can be understood in a very practical way. The reason why I'm invoking that understanding though is because that's what it feels like. It feels like if you have a mantra where you're constantly, like anytime something bad happens, you're like, "Oh, God, can you fix this?" It feels like that's not what the Christian thing is about.
Oh,
That feels like
you,
it's
so
a
one thing too is you don't just pray during the bad times. It's impossible. I mean, that's not Christian either. It's also important to acknowledge the Creator. First of all, every meal or every simple things like you're laying on your pillow, you just open your eyes. I mean, it's not always a thing where you're asking Him to deliver you through something difficult. Even like hot water, that's something that's important to acknowledge. Like it keeps you grounded, it keeps you centered, it keeps you. I mean, and you're lead by you tell that to your children. They may not even ever, depending on their age, they may not have even ever thought about a world without hot water. So you're putting that on their conscience as well, and that just makes them go, oh, maybe I shouldn't complain about, you know, that I want, food or something, some specific food. Maybe I should just eat what I have, eat what my dad gave me. So think about that from a Christian perspective, as far as like the Jesus talks about being like little children. Uh, I think that that's part of it is the gratitude aspect of Christianity. Like when you come before Him, when you come interact with the stories, uh, you're not reading it uh, from the place of critique. Like it's a sacred space. So you're looking for, well, people go to the word for a variety of reasons, but you understand what I'm saying? Like it's not a place that, like, I think Peterson has even acknowledged that if he has trouble understanding something in the word, it's not the words, it's not the fault of the words. It's the word's right. You're just sort of misunderstanding or confused or something like that. Like I feel like talking in circles, but
No, yeah, that makes sense.
it's really really difficult to explain some or to think about these things. Which is, I knew this was gonna be an adventure, but I'm trying to like acknowledge too that I don't know why there are certain things biblically. I don't have an explanation for everything. I do believe that the more I interacted with the word and applied it to my heart, it's a heart-changing library of documents that have, like Peterson talks about, been cobbled together and changed the facet of the way we experience the world. And so I do believe that the more I interacted with it, the better my life became, and I think that's deliverance. I mean, that's a rational way of explaining it. It might even be favor. I mean, I'm not against even saying that particular describing word.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think that's true. I'm thinking like my experience has been that when I sort of stopped, mm, when when I stopped reacting to issues, and accepted them, accepted that whatever was happening in my life, didn't fight against it, then I felt sort of just tremendous peace because, like, this is the idea is that an issue happens, and if you have some like relationship to it, like you have some kind of reaction structure, you do something with it, that makes the issue not just the issue, but a whole thing. And then what I found is that if an issue arises and I don't do anything, I just accept it, then I don't have a slew of problems goes away. And I'm just tying that into what you're saying about the Christian thing, where like it just seems dangerous to me, essentially, if you think that everything should be talked about with God, because what I'm saying essentially is like not everything should be addressed really, because and maybe this is something that as you talk to God, God would sort of show it to you, but it just seems like, you know, if you have a kid that they're, outside and they feel hungry and they sort of tell you about that, and then they feel this, they tell you about that, and it's like, well, at a certain stage the child should grow up and they should sort of stop letting you know about all their internal feelings, because to some degree they're not, that focus isn't useful. It's sort of, that's why I'm saying like manifest in a sense of like you're saying, like, I don't know, that's like a really weird spiritually wacky kind of like almost magic way of thinking about things. And I'm saying that's exactly what I'm saying, is like that's what it seems like it's equivalent to. And I'm also being very, very challenging here to what you're saying, but it is because I feel like it's so useful, because this is what I see. Like, I remember I had a friend who he had like these he felt like he was, sort of attacked by spiritual entities, and whenever that would happen, he would like go in and he would just like pray, like, like really, really sort of start intercessing for himself. He would just like pray, God, like help him, help him, help him, and so it would happen. He would just like go on his knees and he would just go into this place, and it felt like he was, if he just didn't do anything and he just like trusted, he just like let go of it, stopped like holding on to it, stopped like trying to do God's job for him. He just like let God do the thing. It felt like the issue maybe wasn't as big as he was making it out to be. That
Yeah,
makes
it's hard to
sense.
say with mm, emotional and mental afflictions like that because those are deeply. I mean, think about it. Like this guy's probably been haunted for a while, and it's not like he wants to be haunted this way. Uh, it's a something that's been afflicted to him, and probably something. I mean, I don't have a trouble believing people when they say they suffer from demonic influence. Um, Particularly because of my experiences. I think about how confused and lost and terrified and hurt and angry that I've been under the influence of some of this stuff. And they got me pretty good. They didn't kill me, but they got me pretty good. And So, you know, especially because I believe these entities feed off people's weaknesses. Um, and so it's really hard to like explain that like rationally. But you know it kind of when you see it and when you hear stories about it. Um, and I mean, like, I don't know what, how to explain it because like there's people that are aware of myths, so they can like they know the different demonic, uh, different ways that demons operate, and I don't know those things, but I do. I have talked to a lot of people on the street about pain, and I will say that if you pretend as if there's a solution to every problem emotionally and psychologically, I think that's a delusion. There's some people that die from their problems, dude. Their emotional and their psychological issues. They die every day, and so sometimes there isn't a solution. Like it's totally out of our control. That realm is not within our control at all. So even trying to intellectualize about it is it's not a waste of time because you want to talk about people's pain and come to some conclusions for yourself, especially if you have those particularity to your personality. But trying to understand it completely is just it's not gonna happen. It's beyond us.
Now, oh, now I certainly like understand where you're coming from in that. Um, but so like, and it's experiential. So you have this experience where like there's problems and those problems are constantly arising. And I would I would want to though intellectually sort of challenge the foundation of that assumption that the experience is sufficient enough to draw those conclusions because you can appreciate the biblical understanding, which is entirely opposite to that, because Jesus in the Bible didn't there wasn't any case like that for him. There wasn't a case where he was like, oh, this is a problem that's kind of beyond me. And so like if that's true, then what that means is that even though your experience is such, it doesn't it mean it'll apply it. I was studying there's this book, History of Religious Ideas by Marcia Iliad, and he
Yeah.
was sort of outlining these the religious ideas in history, and there was something strikingly different about religion as it arose in the Jewish culture, which is that it was incredibly optimistic, where every other culture viewed their gods as being somehow as the reality itself fundamentally being unsolvable and problematic, versus the Jewish idea was that their God was all powerful and he created them out of love, and there was this perfect, and so it seems like biblically there.
Or are you saying it was like life giving? It was oriented towards giving people uh
Well, I was saying
positive, like something like that.
I was saying that it's incredibly optimistic in a sense of their view on the metaphysics of reality. Not saying necessarily that it was life giving. I was more saying that their view of reality was that like reality is this beautiful thing, versus the other religious cultures about Zeus and their different gods and the fights between all these different gods of all the different maybe Greek gods and stuff. Those ideas were that the metaphysics were so like the origin story in those cases were like, you know, so the Pandora, right? So Pandora was sent to curse somebody because when when Pandora was let in the door, she you know released problems forever. And um like in the idea of Judaism, it's like, well, problems were released into the world, but there's this sort of healing arc that happens where it's like, well, there was problems, but then you know the problems are getting healed. And if you look at the bookends of the Bible, it's No problems, no problems. It's just there's a story where we're working through problems, but at both ends of it, there's a sort of promise in
What about the
both.
Genesis stories with the curse? You don't think that's a problem in the beginning?
Well,
Like,
but in yeah, yeah, but in that though, what it says like at the very beginning of that is it goes, well, there will be enmity between your seed and the seed of the serpent, but then at the end of time you will crush its head, is what it says
mm,
essentially. So there's this like problems getting solved type of thing.
so there's conclusions, you mean?
I would say complete resolution. Like in
Yeah.
Revelations, it's like, well, we go to the new heaven and new earth. Earth.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's the way the truth. I mean, I think that's like fundamental to the truth is it's black and white. There's a beginning and an end, and I think that you can't have the truth without uh something like
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. So,
you see what I mean? Like
yeah,
a
yeah.
standard.
Yeah. I think
It
so.
is a
Maybe
standard.
what like your reason for going like if somebody talks about like actual solutions to problems, don't listen to them. Isn't that more like generally when people talk about solutions to problems in the way that all things can be solved, that generally they're a con artist or they're delusional because they're a bit out of
Well,
touch
okay,
with
okay.
reality?
So first, like, you got to be specific. Like, it depends on. I mean, you're talking like generally, and that's really hard to do with something like a problem, right? Because the way that problems are multidimensional, right? They're not something you can identify immediately. Sometimes it's a long drawn out thing that happened. You know, the seeds of this issue was years ago. You know, something like, for an example of that would be like an airplane that had a screw problem, right? The screw was put in years ago or months ago when it was taken apart and re evaluated, but it happened to fall out while it was up in the air, and then that you know that led to something catching wind and making so that the airplane was unstable. So it's like, and then there's other problems that are simpler, such as this guy's an asshole in the room because of the way that he thinks. Like that's obvious. You can point to that problem. Whereas where the screw is, I don't know. I feel like that's like a intellectualizing something that we shouldn't do because it's like something um we could lose focus really easily when we get into like splitting hairs like that. Uh, because like one of the things like with Peterson's audience, and I do it myself. I've done it before. Is like I don't think there is a because he's such a profound intellectual. I don't really think that it's responsible to just start getting into super nitty gritty details about the nature of reality, dude. Like, that's what people do when they're stoned. Like, that's like a really, really heavy way to operate. And I think it's more responsible, especially with how what Peterson talks about, which is take order the world by taking responsibility. I feel like it's more responsibility to like keep it a little lower. You know what I mean? Like, uh, because like I'm not a philosopher, I'm not intellectual. I mean, to some people they say I can be. I don't know. I don't have a title like that. I don't want a title like that because I'm not particularly good at life. So a lot of people say that I intellectualize my problems, and I shouldn't do that. So I feel like if we're talking about like Peterson's audience, for Peterson's audience, we should lower ourselves a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I don't know how to approach that though because every it's the sometimes there's cases where like the only thing worth addressing is the issue and the only way to address it is to go into it. So like if you're on the surface and it's like well the system is functioning but it feels um sort of atrophied, the system feels dead, whatever system that is. Talking really abstract here, you're in some system, maybe you're in a church and everybody just feels sort of lifeless. it seems like there's no other place you can go
Well,
other than into the
if
source of the
I
problem.
understand that, but if there's life, if you have issues of lifelessness in the church, it's probably the attitude you have in the church. Like it's a thing that's your problem, not the other people's problem. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of people that are I've met that are critical of uh everything but themselves. You know what I mean? Like there's an element of perception where you just need to like relax. You know, don't analyze every nitty-gritty detail about where you are, because just be in the moment, be present, like pay attention what the service is for. First of all, it's to lift you up, to fill you up. It's not meant to be analyzed like that.
But
You
like
know,
you're going really deep into that. Like I presented a problem, and what you did was go
ah,
really deep into a psychological solution, which is
yeah,
possibly true. But
I know, but there's like an issue that I've had for a long time is like, well, okay, you have skills, but I also don't necessarily want to use like they stress me out. Like it's like a creative issue. Like I want to have a conversation uh not normal, that's kind of the weird word, but I want to have a conversation that is appealing to the new me, not the me that used to see problems everywhere and would get lost in the details of analysis. Because I do believe intellectuals do that a lot, right? I think there's like a song lyric where it's like overthinking, overanalyzing separates the body from the mind, withering my intuition, leaving opportunities behind, something like that. I think that's a Maynard quote, Maynard James Keenan. So, uh, like, where's the laughter with intellectuals? You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm talking about. It's like, where's the relaxing and like, there's a reason comedy is so important when you're talking about uh, the nature of reality at times, like memes and stuff like that. Like they feed off of comedic impulses, and they're culture war related at times. Uh, you know, I think it's important to relax and laugh and not just be paralyzed by problems and analysis and what's wrong with this, what's wrong with that.
well, then what conversation should have happen? Um, I'll say as well that comedy, it seems like when comedy is good, it's because it's going for the throat on some deep metaphysical issue. That's why comedy is
Going for
funny.
the throat.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Or it's just it feels true as well as like preposterous.
but also
I think.
important. But if you don't go deep and you're going comedy or something like that, well, the
Okay, I have a
comedy
question.
as well
I have a
has to
question
go
for
deep.
you.
Yeah.
Are you one of those people that had a hard time with casual conversation?
No.
Okay. Because
I can do casual conversation, but here's so like you're identifying correctly that I'm not doing any casual conversation right now, but
yeah,
that's because I want to find some meaning in the conversation. There has to be so like you do casual conversation, like you sit down and you go like, okay, well, let's talk about stuff that doesn't matter. And let's talk about things that are like,
not all casual conversation is stuff that doesn't matter.
well, then, yeah, well, it's got to be something that matters. That's like, it's got to be like, even if it's light, it's got to be sort of, it has to have, I'm very good
Well,
with sort of
doesn't
casual
Peterson
conversations,
say
but
everything matters?
yeah,
Everything's relevant? That includes casual conversation. It's all relevant.
yeah, but oftentimes, like, so, like, in this context, I'll give an example. Like, well, let's do casual conversation right now, but what do we do? Because if you don't follow that thread of meaning, if you're not pulling on that thread, then you go into if you're just trying to do casual, you end up kind of just being sort of like fake. Like, well, let's just do blah. But like, if like, can you think of like something casual that we could talk about right now?
Sure. What's your hobbies?
I do piano, computer programming. Um, yeah, I study music, so I've been studying. I teach piano, so as well. So I've been studying how music structure works to because I improvise pianos to just try to like understand it deeper. I've been sort of working on this Chopin piece where I'm trying to make it like sound. It's this fantasy impromptu. I'm trying to make it sound kind of like airy. Computer programming. Um, yeah, AI, the way it relates to that. Anything in there that's interesting, or what are your hobbies? If none of that's
Well, I'm definitely a fan of computer stuff. As far as like engineering and stuff like that, I don't know nothing about it, but I appreciate it when I see it. Like there's a lot of guys that I in the Midwest and in Iowa, guys appreciate machines all the time, but they kind of computers or blah blah blah. They appreciate a car. I appreciate computers like people appreciate cars. Just the when I see a really fancy one, obviously the average ones are, a dime a dozen, but uh I so computer stuff would be cool. Big conversations like that. Um, I don't know any musical instruments, but I definitely appreciate music. I definitely have gotten into the nitty-gritty with like heavy music before, as far as like just listening to bands that were uh not everybody's taste. And I definitely have been a snob about music before. Um, but I've never picked up an instrument really, other than fiddling around. I've never actually done the dedication to actually teaching people or the dedication to actually like learning a craft and uh, doing it. Which I mean, I feel like one of the things I've noticed about you right away is that you care deeply about detail. So I can't even imagine what your music would sound like as far as like when you press publish or if you have something like that. Like I'm sure uh, it's definitely something where you notice every pattern. You notice it's everything's purposeful. That's a very valuable thing. Um, another thing I'd like to talk about is like long-term plans or uh, future stuff. Because honestly, like that's the whole reason we're MPA, I assume, is it's for the future. It's for the having a better life, aiming at a better life. That's one of the reasons I got into his work in the first place, is because he was telling me things about myself that I didn't even realize I needed.
now, but future stuff in a way that's not sort of future stuff. So like I see what you're talking here. So it's like analysis of things that are not going super deep. So like when it comes to musical analysis, you're sort of bringing up like how I have attention to detail and how that relates to music. And then you can start sort of parsing out a philosophy, but the philosophy is contained within some kind of domain. So like music, when
Well,
you
yeah, I don't have the same skills that you have for sure. I mean, I don't have the. I used to let people like if I was partaking in like meeting a new person, I would just kind of follow wherever it goes. But nowadays, I realize that you know I have spent time and listened to people talk about uh like their pain, for example. I used to let people do that. I didn't realize that I shouldn't have done that because not everybody's looking for resolution. Not everybody's looking to get better. Some people just like talking about their pain, and they'll do it indefinitely.
yeah, that's
And
good.
so that's kind of why it's important to steer a conversation uh, and acknowledge, okay, well, we've had our conversation. We don't need to go any further. Uh, and not saying that I want to do that now, but I don't really. I want to know like where you see this project idea thing that we're thinking about that we're doing, because I do think it's interesting. I do think it's valuable. I do think it's worth uh, you know, telling people about even. Like I think it's cool, considering that's how we met is through just a random post.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, this is a good one to go into. So it the idea is to build stuff. The idea is to start building out the amount of things people can interface when it comes to education. So, and I said this before, it's like there's a pattern, there's a progression of improvement. And so if you can have conversations on every single level of this, people maybe can watch the conversations and see like, oh, this is where I feel like I'm at. But additionally, I mean, a big a big part of this for me is wanting to do this. It's wanting to build things. So like right now I'm writing a paper, wanting to share it with the academy. And but I also want the process to be part of it. So the actual thing I think should have value in itself entirely because it does what I'm writing I think is actually novel and quite interesting. But I also want to, you know, make that as well more um like sort of setting an example. So like this, like I think people sort of get on and they'll talk about stuff that doesn't matter and then people watch it. But I think maybe people are maybe bored of podcasts that do that. And so what I'm interested in it is like actually doing something. And then when people watch you, it's not just them watching you talk about nothing. It's them watching you do something, which then what they can take from that is, oh, I can see how they create and actually innovate and progress. Um,
Okay,
so
can
that
you give me an
is
example of something you want me to do, or be like, because like I think the full format of uh us actively like filming how we're trying to figure this out, I think that's valuable. I think that procedure is valuable. Like some people have no idea how to even interact with some of this planning technological um like technological because like we're literally filming how we're uh our planning process behind the scenes, kind of access. And I feel like that's valuable because, how else? I feel like the conversations that we're capable of, both of us, are worth people's time. I think they might skip through a bunch of stuff. That's fine. Go ahead. Like, I'm not against that at all. Like the stuff we were talking about earlier, I feel like it's fine to skip for people to skip through. That's good. I do that all the time. Um, but you know, I do feel like we are different guys for sure. Uh, I am more like you said you're interested in action, right? As well. So that's something we are agree on. The thing is like sometimes though when I'm hearing you talk about the details, like I'm amazed, dude, like uh what you're paying attention to is like something that I would just gloss right over. Because I don't know how you're able to remember all the detail from some of your intellectual skills. Um, because like one of the reasons I got obsessed with Peterson in the first place is because he was listing so much detail, and then I'd turn off my phone or whatever and put my phone down. I forget things, so I had to go back and re-listen to it again and again and again and again and again. The only reason internalized much of what he said in the first place is because I listened to it over and over, like repetition, and so I'm not someone that is really good at uh, like listening to something podcast wise and then being able to spit out what I was listening to. Sometimes I have no idea what I'm doing at all. But I've done my best work writing. You talk about writing. I've done my best work writing where I start the project and like, okay, well, I'm gonna start going now and we'll turn it off eventually. I'll put the pen down eventually. I don't know how long it's gonna take. Uh, but we're gonna go until I feel like it's completed for me. And I know I have people compliment my pen a lot. So uh,
your pen,
I
like the way
feel
you write, or
yeah,
your
like for example, some of the stuff I've written recently. I put it down for a while because I used to be one of those people that lashed out at people by writing, and I've done that so over the course of my life. Whereas recently, one of my friends sent me some questions from his church, and I don't think he really thought I would answer them, but I did. Um, there were just three questions, three simple questions about the Bible and about Jesus in particular, and I just wrote a bit, and which I've done for a long time, and sent it to him, and he was very happy about it, about what I said, because he remembers what I used to be like when I was, fighting all the time and bitter and tired of my case with my son and tired of case with the fact that I can't communicate with the mother of my son and stuff like that. I used to be a pretty hard person to be around because I was in pain all the time. That whole thing about talking to people about their pain, it's because I've done it. I have talked my pain into the ground. So,
Well, the productive things that can be done, what do you think about that? What does that look like? Productive things that can be
between the two
done.
of us,
Yeah.
it's a good
Or
question.
or or individual, but just sort of, you know,
Well, we're
either
both
or.
writers. We're both writers.
Yeah.
We talk about the craft. Um,
Yeah.
we're both, I think, I'm not sure all the authors you've written or authors that you've read, but I definitely read too. So we could talk about some of the books that are on our mind a lot. Um, you seem capable of apprehending spiritual things, and that's relevant as well to me. Um, and then also, I think it would be really cool if we could figure out something with PA as far as like being kind of bringing more people to the fold, and to the conversation, being kind of inspiring people to want to join regularly even.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
that would be
like
freaking cool.
I'll throw out something just to see how you think about it though. Like what if students like you and me were doing research projects, maybe writing, trying to do research projects to then innovate from it, create interesting information, then talking about it, creating a space where like you go on to a conversation like this,
I see what you're saying. We could sponsor a space for them to talk about their projects.
sponsor space. I mean,
Like, here's what I mean. Like, no, like we be like we could like what sponsor is a strong word. We could offer a space.
facilitate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but it doesn't seem like creating the space is a difficult thing. It seems like showing how to do it, doing it, finding people to do it. Because creating a space, isn't that like fairly easy? So like people can just sort of turn on the camera. It just seems like doing that, like sort of finding how to actually do that is
So
not
what if we
immediately
put a
clear.
message out on the quad about, hey, you got an interesting project. We're two guys that'll listen. And
Well,
do you mind if we
but
would even like record some of it?
now I don't want to go too deep on this, but this is my understanding is that like my interest is actually showing how to do the thing where I'm creating an interesting project, if that makes sense, because it seems like that is like a lead by example thing, like if I'm sitting here sort of going like, "Oh, you show me your interesting project." It's like, "Well, why can't I come up with an interesting project?" Like
Oh, I
couldn't
definitely think there are no rules here.
well, couldn't we do that though? Like couldn't we both like start working on something that like kind of has meaning, has matters, and then when we talk about it, we're talking about like actually we're not just like talking about random stuff, we're not going like too deep. We're talking about something that matters and we're like doing because you know what they do in school, like they do like research projects, they do like what does somebody do for a doctorate, like for doctorates
Yeah.
people oftentimes.
Well, part
Yeah.
of the projects though as a team is you have to have shared goals. So I'm not sure how we would organize that because we don't even know what we want to do. We just want to do something.
Well, I have a bunch of things that I'm like sort of already
Oh,
doing.
all right.
But and like yeah, and I got there because I viewed that as like kind of an important thing to do. And I mean, I could probably find shared goals. It doesn't sound like you're too interested in that though.
I don't really know for sure what you're talking about exactly. It seems like it's a lot of concepts. I haven't seen anything. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know for sure what project you're even talking about.
And and then you're asking that in relation to like, well, would that be a shared goal for me? That's
Yeah,
why you're
like
asking that.
how can I set a goal if I don't even know where I'm aiming?
That is well, so that's interesting though, because like what you described right there is exactly part of what the goal of this is. It sounds really meta, so it may be confusing, but like that issue of like, well, where do I aim? What's the goal? That seems like what this kind of thing would be. Like, so if we can come up with a goal and to aim and do that over camera and share that, that's setting an example. Because I think that what you described right there of like, well, where do I aim? What's the goal? I think that's a problem that like everybody has.
Hmm. For sure, yeah, it's a what do you call it? Paralysis by analysis.
Yeah. But
Um,
I don't know. It doesn't sound like you're too interested in that, though. We could
I
talk
don't
about
really
one of the other
know.
things.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you're a better direct conversation discussion leader than I am.
Well, I'm just
I have some things, but I don't really know. I've never done a podcast before. I have no fucking idea what I'm doing.
I'm just always like really sensitive though to like if the other person is actually interested in what I'm saying though, because
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you
You
know,
want
so
people
like
engaged, not all the way. Like you want people actively engaged, not like
right,
just listening.
yeah, yeah. So that's what my feeling was like. It felt like when I'm describing that. That's why I'm sort of bringing it to attention because it feels like if I go down that path of like, well, working on this project, it seems like that's maybe something you're not very much interested in. You're more interested in. I'm just like going based off body language and just intuition, but it seems like you're not interested in that. You're more interested in just having a conversation. Um,
I don't know what I'm doing. Like, uh, you're actually the first guy I've ever really talked to online, long form. So I don't know. I know. I think it's interesting that we have shared interests. I think it's interesting that like shared things that we're wanting to accomplish as far as uh, we both can read a book and talk about it. I think it's interesting that we're affiliated with PA because I do think there needs to be more content where people are kind of putting themselves out there that they're affiliated or they enjoy PA and more long form podcasts about PA. I think is there's a market for that for sure because a lot of people are that are on the outside have no idea what's going on here inside the walls. You know what I mean? Um, and I would love to do that. I know there are plenty of people that are friends of mine that are interested in what I'm doing. They are interested in the sense like they care about me, right? And they care about like my future with my son or whatever. They're not really sure what is going on in the space of the Peterson networking because honestly, I think people are kind of scared of what Peterson has done for good reason. He's a powerful guy. What he's done in the space of the internet with like 500 hours online, and I mean the fact that he's actively uh, contributed to the conversations people are having worldwide about their countries. That's a big freaking. I mean, that's an ambition, and the podcast space. There are many people trying to undermine what he's tried to do, as far as talking about ideology and uh, maybe making a case against some of these ideologies, or I don't even know. He might even be making a case for I don't exactly know what his ambition is at all, other than he's definitely not a he definitely is interested in pointing out the flaws of both the radicals on both sides, and actively articulating the flaws, which I think is important. Because I've met people that are on the far left and the far right, and you know, it's very hard to pull them out of that, or to talk to them about why it's not good, not a good thing, not going to contribute to the life you think you're trying to achieve. Uh, you know, so uh, that's kind of what I did in jail, was talk to some of the guys that were on the far right. There wasn't anybody on the far left that I knew, but I've talked to people in Des Moines, for example, that were on the far left, and the only reason I was able to do that in the first place is because of what I've learned from Peterson. I wouldn't have been able to understand things at the detail that I do now if it wasn't for him. You know, in
So
fact,
then,
I was in a freaking doomsday cult for, like, I was aware of the humor of this doomsday cult when I was younger. When I was like 20, like, I was not in a good spot. I was not in a good spot, and I think Peterson's work was so much was so amazing that it is a tool that I use, like a shovel that I use to get out of this fucking hole that I was in. Like, I was in a bad spot. Being like overly political person, like, dude, I was trashing. I mean, I had no prospects with women at all back then because women were terrified of me for good reason. I was a dumbass. So,
wait, what was the Doomsday cult that you were in?
well, I wasn't really in it. I was just like part of their like, they're on YouTube at the time before that he got banned. It was like something I don't really want to. I don't know if I want to like make it public because I wasn't in it. I just watched way too many videos and laughed at the same fucking humor, stupid humor. And to be honest, like, it's something that I'm not proud of, because I don't think he's a good person. I think his people are similar to the Tate people, the Tates, and that they're just Pied Pipers. And
This is something though that like this is something that concerns me though because if I sit down and I talk to somebody and I'm not like doing something, so like you know going in deep, well that's doing something because you're at the edge of your you know location in abstract uh, ideological space. You're discussing things that are issues for you, and therefore
yep.
it's real because other people may have the same thing. So if you're not doing that, then
You
it's
mean
like,
you
okay,
don't want people that are talking to you online to have boundaries? Is that what you're talking about? You want them to like push the envelope as far as like redlining every single, what do you call it? What is Peterson do? What word does he use? It's like uh, I don't remember the technical term, but it's like, I think understand what you're saying. You're like,
well, that's not
you
what
want
I'm
people to be at their edge, intellectually, maybe, when they're talking to you
that's not what
about
I'm saying at all,
ideas.
though.
Okay,
Not at
okay,
all. There's no need to be at the edge at all.
okay.
I'm describing that as one possible way that something is actually happening in the conversation because I think that actually the big crime of bad podcasts and entertainers and
Yeah.
personalities online, the big crime is not that they do something negative or dark. It's that they do something which appears like something, but really is nothing. So if you get on and you like talk about stuff and you're maybe able to make it seem engaging, but really at the person at the end, they didn't, nothing is happening. Like, I feel like if we just talk for the sake of talking, if we're just talking about like events, things like this, then it's like, there's no movement, there's no actual value, which is where
Mm.
I can identify several locations where there's actual value. There's actually something happening. But those locations are like this. It's like, well, the one I already described, like sort of actually being at your edge. Don't need to do that though. It could be education. You could be trying to like provide some, build something educational. You could be trying to learn something. You could be trying to build something in any domain, really. Build something musical, build something like this. Um, you can be talking about ideas that are interesting. So, but now it seems like there's two things which you're not particularly interested in. You're not particularly interested in talking about academic ideas. You're not
Well,
particularly,
I'm not I'm not educated, first of all, and I don't know if I'm like I've never been challenged that way. Uh, like I don't know, like it seem like you're very ambitious with your project idea,
well, okay, so
and
this, I'll throw this in there. I won't interrupt you. You continue that thought, but I would say, so like the reason why I'm able to actually sort of, you described it as like I'm like good at maybe providing flow in conversations. I'm good at like doing that. The only reason I'm able to do that is literally just because that's all I'm doing is just going for purpose. Because if I was to not do that, then I would say that I would have
okay,
no flow.
I'll throw this in there then. Do you think that life is just about pursuing meaning?
Yep.
Interesting.
Now, and that
I've
can
done that.
but that can manifest itself in ways which appear not meaningful. So music, that's meaning. Having kids, that's meaning. There's lots of things that are meaning. Uh, and guess what else? Maybe playing games is meaningful because you're downloading abstract concepts. There's lots of things that are meaningful.
Hmm.
I don't have a very narrow definition of that.
I have been interesting. So I've done the meaning thing as well, like to the point where I was like suffering a lot and enduring more than like my friends were disturbed by the amount of just they like express concern about my interests and hobbies or my interest in phenomenon like internet stuff. And so I was like, because I didn't have any interest in being like a regular person as far as going to community college and like I was more interested when I was learning online than being going to the institutions at all. And honestly, like I found that my relationships suffered really bad because people live for happiness. A lot of people do, and it's actually not a bad thing. And because like I actively told my then girlfriend at the time, I told her that uh uh I said something along the lines of, I'd rather live for happiness or live for meaning than happiness. Like, I don't need to be happy. I'm not worried about that. And, she was done shortly afterwards. I don't think she necessarily made a mistake to to tell me that way and to treat me that way because, well, I think for men, maybe they could live for meaning. But I don't know a lot of women that are actively like uh I think happiness is like a very, very important part to female psychology. Like it's a it's a difference that I'm from the men and women that I've met, and if you were to compare some of them, you know, so I struggle now with not trying to be. I don't like pursue happiness all the time. I'm not a hedonist. I can actually like do both. I can be happy and be happy in my work, and I'm not a slave either. In fact, um, like I think it's important to acknowledge the role that meaning and happiness they kind of coincide at times, especially if you're uh, trying to make somebody else happy, with an act of service.
Hmm.
Or, for example, I don't know if you have any kids, but I have a 6-year-old. So, to be honest, like people talk about uh, how meaningful having kids are, um, and I think it's absolutely true. Um, I just found that like there was a whole dimension of happiness that human beings are capable of that I was completely unaware of prior to having a child. Like I'm happy with like very simple things he does. Like I mean, he makes me laugh all the time with just random like stuff that uh just his little particularities in his personality. It's just really funny. And it's I don't know. So I'm paying attention more now to happiness than I am to meaning.
I would say that's phenomenal. I would say that's like I did that too, actually. Significant amount of time where I was like, I'm not going to do anything but just like personally do what I want to do. Um, and I did that, and it was very, very beneficial. It was really good because it was you might not like you don't want to go into technical things, but it's shadow integration.
Hmm.
It's like being connected with your truer deep desires. Like you don't want to have to do something. You want to just exist and enjoy. That's very deeply profound.
Like for example, like I think some of the intellectual work that Peterson community is capable of is, first of all, like it's impossible to put words to some of the conversations that are happening on the quad, for example. And I mean, this is, by the way, uh, there would be no us, me and you, without the quad. So, like the things that people are capable of in his community is amazing. I just don't know how to approach the practicality of some of the things I'm learning from the people of PA because there's so much to learn, but I get lost in the detail and then I just find myself like absorbing content and I don't really want to do that. I want it to be there's a fine line between theory and practice and you learn the best when you start with practice, you learn the best when you fail and when you try. So that requires me to be offline. So I don't have any Peterson fans that are friends, uh, like friends that I talk to day to day. You're probably the first one, actually, that actually have a rudimentary understanding of what he's doing.
Well, and is that as kind of the same thing too, where it's like you see what they're talking about, it's kind of technical, and it isn't even that you don't have technical capability, it's just that you're interested in kind of being happy. And it's like, well,
Hmm.
how do these technical conversations lead to that? Like, why don't I just be happy? I'm curious, what are your favorite things to do? Because mm, sort of like, so like again, so like I went deep into that place. And what I like to do, one of my favorite things was play chess and listen to music. I would just crank music and just do that. It was absolutely amazing.
Hmm. Music for me is also very important. I love how some of the music that I'm listening to nowadays is like the technology is awesome enough where I can go from without a super complicated process, I can go from, you know, I really like aggressive music. That's been something that has been a part of my personality for a long time. Not necessarily because I love every aspect of what they're communicating, uh, but I really like it's trained me. Uh, it's trained me to deal with pain and heartache, and it's trained me to see the beauty in some of the darkness as well. So there are bands that, for example, there's a band called Red. That's a Christian band that I really like. Um, they're I don't listen to them very much, um, and they are not. I don't think they have a very big fan base, and they're supposedly like Christian rock or something. I don't even know the genre that they're supposed they belong to, but I just find that they're very beautiful. They're very image laden. It's not typical Christian imagery. The messaging is it's not super aggressive, but it definitely is capable. Um, and it's just I really like the colors they use because the band's called Red, so they use a lot of red and black and white. And I'm a big fan of aesthetics and beauty as well. Which I should probably take the John Vervaeke course on beauty because I'm sure it's a trip. Um, and so I also like wordplay and rap music, kind of. Um, so I've been trying to get back and dip my toes back into some rap music, but I don't really know where I'm going. Um, there's a Christian rapper named um, Brian T. Yeah, Brian T. from Kansas City. He talks a lot about uh, issues that are relevant to people that are from the hood. Uh, and honestly, like he's got a lot of good stuff to say. One of the things I remember, one of his lyrics is something like, who says gangsters go to heaven? Who says pistols make you tough? Who says money makes you rich or money makes you, yeah, something like that. And it's just like he's very um he's very he speaks from experience, and he also is like actively has like living a redemptive story. Like he obviously used to struggle a lot uh with some behavior and things like that. So uh Brian Tees has a place in my heart. I wish I could meet him. Um and then there's also bands like recently there's a band called Villagers of Ionia City, which is kind of a new age project. They kind of sing about like the age of Aquarius is one of their songs. Um I just found it's sonically very beautiful. The instrumentation is awesome. The tone that the lyricist brings. I'm not really paying attention to a lot of the lyrics because I'm not really sure what's going on, but I do appreciate his voice. And their longs. I mean, symphony, like it's just up and down, and it takes a while to develop, and I can listen to the whole thing, not a problem. Uh, so music is relevant day to day. Um, I do like video games as well. I think they're fun. I only have one guy that I play with once in a while, but other than that, I don't even like play single player games really. I play a lot of multiplayer online stuff. And honestly, I just like the cutting edge, some of the new games that are coming out. Just like the design of what they're capable of now versus what they used to be capable of.
This is
It's
what
just
I
freaking amazing.
I suggested. I was I was embarrassed that I got this trending on the quad, but I asked if people would do join like a Minecraft server if it was
Oh yeah, yeah.
a Peterson Academy thing.
I saw that.
Did you ever play Minecraft?
I've never played Minecraft. Honestly, I thought it was more like a kids game, but I don't know
Interesting,
it.
really.
I don't know anything about it. That was just my impression. My son has talked about Minecraft and Pokemon and stuff like that.
Now, like what I'm thinking about right now is like, so you're in this place of let's stay in tune with what is fun. Let's stay in tune with what is enjoyable. Um,
Hmm.
and what I'm wondering is how, or is it necessary to connect that with meaning? Because I have this, and I could be wrong about this, you could maybe correct me, but I have this understanding that there is nothing happening in entertainment that doesn't provide some value. And so people can fall into this like accidentally, like somebody maybe has a channel where they have a hydraulic press that like compresses things, and you go, well, there's no meaning in that, but like maybe there is. Like maybe people are interested in the way inanimate objects work and like physics, and like there is something in there that's kind of happening, and you don't watch them forever, so it's like you are extracting information. Like I remember the way these hydraulic presses work. And so
Hmm.
my argument would be that when it appears like people are really big entertainers and they are not providing any meaning, that they are either somehow providing meaning or they're actually just sort of participating in some really kind of almost trickery, making people think that there's meaning when there's not. And so what I'm wondering is like, is there a way to do both of those things, to both do something very fun and also very meaningful?
Absolutely. I think that's possible. Are you looking for just online or are you looking for like in general?
Well, like, yeah.
Because I can say something that makes me happy and is also very meaningful is cooking your own food. Like the adventures you can go on by cooking something that tastes like shit or cooking something that is like freaking a combination that you never thought would be delicious. Like for example, the other day I was craving protein because I my workouts were stressed my bodies where I was sore, and I just wanted a bunch of protein. I didn't really care really what it tastes like. I made eggs and put cream cheese on it. I don't know if that's a thing. No, I have no idea. And it was like strawberry, like fruit cream cheese. Like it was just weird. And honestly, like I don't know if it's a thing. I ate it. It was delicious. Like it was very good actually. And it was something that was made me happy, and to me, it was nourishment as well. Like it was very meaningful to my body at the time, because I'm trying to recover from working out. It's like it doesn't have to be a grand project. It literally could take place in your living room. You know, uh, Another thing that makes me happy is like going on adventures with him. Uh,
Well, okay,
Taking him around town,
let me
stuff like
interject
that.
though. Because like what I meant though is like, so like you're talking about like it would be great if we could do this, talk with each other, share it with a quad. But what I'm
Mhm.
kind of wondering and what I'm interested in is like, well, can we do that in a way that's both fun for us and meaningful?
Yeah, I think we can contribute to the quad by listening to people talk about their projects. And it doesn't have to be super long. It could literally be 20 minutes. You have a 20-minute pitch.
But
You
that
know,
doesn't
you
immediately
have,
there's nothing immediately there though, because there's nobody with projects necessarily to talk about.
well, they could reveal themselves in the comments section. We could just ask the quad, hey, if you guys are interested in talking about anything you're doing, we're two guys that'll listen for a
Okay,
little bit.
so but then so that's the route. We can do that. But then there's nothing for us to do with each other.
There could be. I don't know. I mean, I don't really know what I'm doing at all with any of it other than, uh, I like you as a person so far, and I definitely think we're capable of conversation that can last longer than 30 minutes. Already we're going what, an hour 45? Like, dude, that's freaking cool. Like, uh, I I've barely had like I've talked to you more than I've talked to a lot of people in my day to day. So, uh, I definitely feel like we're capable of something. I don't know if it's like a writing project as well, where we just assign ourselves some writing stuff and then we share it on video and post it, or share something. I don't know. Um, could be something like that. I also kind of like um, utilizing. I don't know. Some people have various opinions about how to use AI. I'm kind of a fan of like I edit pictures I have in my phone that I've taken or that I want to build, like um, Snapchat posts in particular. I just for fun, like I do it when I'm bored, when there's nothing to do for the day. Like I sat in the library today just editing a picture that barely even turned out, and it probably took me an hour or so, and I'm just training my Photoshop skills pretty much. I'm not really like interested in I'm not really proud of every little image. Like I also have printed my AI stuff that I've done on Canvas. I have a printer locally, and he gives me uh, an affordable rate, and I kind of want to sell them. You know what I mean? Because I think have uh, people have told me they'd buy them, but nobody shows me the money.
Hmm.
So, uh, I think AI. Yeah, I get people don't like it on PA as far as that it's the people substituting genuine creative endeavor for a prompt. Uh, and I think yeah, that's not good. But I also think that I'd like to talk about AI and not be like doom and gloom about it. You know, like I like Grok. I've heard about DeepSeek. I haven't really done a whole bunch with it. Claude is another one that I saw. I don't know much about it either, but I use Grok a lot, and I don't use it if I don't publish anything. I just use it for fun.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I totally agree with you. I feel the same way. I think we get along quite well. I like talking to you. And yeah, I think we might be able to kind of maneuver, into being able to kind of do that, do something fun that's also productive. Now, what would that look like? Like, what do you think about what you're saying about like both of us or like doing like a writing thing? Like, what would that look like? Would it be like we have a like a maybe a subject like we're doing a research writing on, or we have maybe a poetic thing where we're trying to create some art, or is it like some kind of mix in between, or
Oh,
is
I
it
don't
like
know. I write so many different things. I'm not really capable of like genuine long form narratives. I always burn out eventually. Uh, to me, it's just something I do that passes the time and also get fills me up emotionally. I've done poetry before. Uh, I've also and I've published poetry on my social media stuff. I'm not on any fancy book though. Nobody's bought it. Um, I've done um, as far as what me and you could do. I feel like I just want to learn from you, dude. Like just share the craft, share what you're writing. Uh, I'll listen, and I will offer. Like I'm not just gonna say it's good or bad. I'd love to, get a copy of it and actually follow along. Um, and I'd also enjoy like just a lot of times though when I do my writing is like, it actually is really rewarding just if somebody reads it. They don't need to do much. So I don't know if anybody's reading your writing, but I think that we have a solid enough relationship where I can talk to you about what you're writing, honestly, what I think.
brilliant? Yeah, well, I'll do that now. Yeah, I've been working on this for a little bit. It'll take me like some amount of time to actually, I think, produce it because I have this feeling where I want to do it right. I mean, I can talk to you a little bit about the topic now. You
Mm.
can see if it's something you'd have anything.
Are you like a perfectionist type of writer? Because that's how I've been in the past, where it's like I won't press publish, I won't share with anyone until it's just right.
Not at all, I would say. It's more that it feels like it's like this. It's like I want to I it's I think it's a profound enough thing that if I share it in the wrong way, people will not take it seriously. They'll be like, "Okay, he's just making this stuff up." But if I show that I have the expertise to actually talk at a certain level, then people will take it seriously. So it's like I
Mhm.
want to present it in a way that's
I
impactful.
think I think that the way that you're speaking about it, and I can kind of see it with the way that you're emotionally coming across. I think it's grounds for another episode that you should do it. Another episode like the next one, basically that we do. I think that would be like that's where we start and
That
go from
sounds
there.
amazing, man. Yeah, that sounds really good.
Um, and I mean, maybe we talk about it the whole time, maybe
Yeah.
not. I don't know.
Kind of like this. Yeah, I feel like we have a good ability to sort of navigate, switch the feeling of the conversation if needed or
Totally agree. I also think that, we might have reached our ceiling um, for tonight, and I think we should probably like stop for tonight and then publish it just to
all right.
see on PA and see what happens. But we can schedule another one next week or whatever you want to do.
Fantastic. All right. Um, well, this
So
is yeah.
is this the way that we end it? Like just
Well, I
randomly
mean,
stop
I'll
come
say
to a
like
stopping point?
I'll say this like I'll just compliment you. Like I feel like it's really interesting talking to you. You say you don't like the technical stuff, but I feel like you really have a well integrated shadow to like your yeah, I really enjoyed this conversation and yeah.
Yeah, I look forward to more for sure. Thank you for being a man of your word and sharing with me because it's really important when you meet people online. Not everybody is serious about creative stuff and they back out pretty easily. So it's really, you're the one that sent me the link and to this software. I didn't even know about any of this, so I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. I look forward to being a team, dude.
Yeah, same.
All right.
All right, this is great.
Text me the details next week.
Will do.
Sounds good, buddy. See you later.
All right. Bye.